This video shows how to increase security for SAP users in human resources. Most SAP installations use only usernames and passwords to secure the logon. Once logged on, no further security checks are done, which leaves your HR functions and regulatory compliance programs in a vulnerable position. If you're relying on procedures and segregation of duties, you basically have an honor system. To improve on that, your procedures have to be backed up with security checkpoints, where SAP forces users to prove who they are. One way is to create more checkpoints at detailed or granular levels. A second way is to increase the sophistication of how you authenticate at those checkpoints. This means moving beyond passwords to using smart cards or ideally fingerprint scans. This graph shows how granularity can progress beyond a simple logon to transactions, info types, fields, buttons, and so on. On the horizontal axis, we see the progression from passwords to smart cards and fingerprint scans. Combining these two variables, depending on the security risk of a given user, gives you the greatest security, and non-critical users can be exempted from these verifications. A standard SAP installation using only passwords for system logon is shown in the bottom left corner of our graph. To achieve bulletproof security with BioLock software, just add security checkpoints at granular levels, along with more sophisticated ways of authenticating at those checkpoints. Here's a graphical view of what we mean by more granular controls in the SAP system. In this diagram, we have called out InfoType 167, which is a critical field that stores employee data. For the ultimate in security and full HIPAA compliance, you would need to set up checkpoints by employee at that level of detail and secure them with either smart card or fingerprint scan access. Each checkpoint would then automatically generate a robust audit trail. While smart cards are a big improvement over passwords, the most sophisticated protection uses biometrics, a category of security known as who you are. The best known and most convenient technique is fingerprint scanning. These scans can be transformed into encrypted digital templates that uniquely identify a user to your SAP system. These templates are unique to each person, can't be used by other employees, as opposed to a theoretical user profile. With increased security, risk decreases dramatically in all the areas listed, especially the risk of insider fraud, which is the greatest danger to most organizations. When you identify users on the basis of who they are, you remove all doubt as to who is actually responsible for a given activity in your SAP system because you have an indisputable audit trail that leads back to that user. Here's an example of the automatically generated audit file. Note the distinction between the SAP user column and the BioLock user column. The log file identifies suspect events such as failed logons or attempts at unauthorized actions. Events like the viewing of financial data provide a strong Sarbanes-Oxley audit trail. Any attempt to share passwords, as in this example, will be tracked and prevented. Many scanning devices can be used with BioLock software to identify users. For example, a mouse can contain a scanner on the top or the side, and many laptops now have swipe sensors. Some of the devices comply with military standards. Some keyboards are available that offer fingerprint scanning or smart card access or both. Many of these devices cost less than $100 and are easily installed. So what would the impact be on your SAP end users? First of all, you probably only have to have your power users involved. Those chosen users will have a one-time registration or enrollment process, which takes just a few minutes. There's no training required, and the use of BioLock software is totally intuitive. On a daily basis, users will be prompted for fingerprint scans as required by your business rules and policies. Let's take a look at a few examples of screens an end user might see. In this case, the user is logging on to SAP, and in addition to the password, the fingerprint scan message box pops up. The user places the appropriate finger on their scanning device to clear the message box. The whole thing takes just a few seconds. Here we see a user working with HR data with an InfoType 167. Since this InfoType is protected, a fingerprint scan is required to view or change data. Once the scan is completed, the BioLock message box disappears and the user continues working. These examples are to show how intuitively and seamlessly BioLock blends into daily SAP functions. Here are more examples of actions that can be controlled using BioLock. Maybe you want to prevent someone from printing a list of employees or salaries. Or did you want to prevent a user from making salary or benefit changes? In the screen example, certain fields are masked, meaning the data is made invisible so that an unauthorized user cannot view them, for example, executive payroll. Here we see the employee self-service kiosk, which has been upgraded with a fingerprint scanner. Remote employees can use this kiosk to clock in with a secure audit trail. There can't be any excuses like having forgotten to bring a swipe card or having lost a token. Here are some examples of success stories with BioLock software. A county government achieved full HIPAA compliance by protecting HR data. A school board put a stop to payroll and expense account fraud after years of undetected abuse. A city created the ability for remote employees to log into SAP from self-service kiosks, thereby creating indisputable attendance records. Find out how you can implement bulletproof SAP security for HR. Call 1-877-BioLock or send an email to info@biolock.us.